Welcome back to the solo cast of this best of 5 finals. Had a bit of a country draw right there, and I really usually don't. In the bottom right, as the yellow Protoss, he is Neeb. In the top left, as the red Terran, he's Reality. Reality beats Bjorn. We don't get the epic rematch. We don't get the this round of 4 Terran. Now going up against Neeb, who has already beaten 2 other Terrans who had advanced quite far in the GSL. And we don't see the rematch. But we still see Neeb versus a Terran. Neeb's been on a Terra in this tournament, and usually is, until basically he isn't, right? Like, he'll do great, he'll look super confident, his builds are on point, his reactions are on point, and then he'll mess up against like 1 Widow Mine drop, not even that bad, mind you, like 6 probes killed instead of just the 1, and things will sometimes tumble from there. Just is the way that it goes. What the hell? 2 barracks. Interesting. For Neeb sometimes. And I'm certain he's aware of that, and just by being aware of that, he's already like, it's affecting him even more, you know? I feel that's his problem right now, is knowing his problem, almost, but he's looking to improve with every Olimoleague, and he is back in the finals here. I have a lot of faith for him against Reality, but we also had a lot of faith for him against Bjorn last week, and then Bjorn ended up 3-0ing the guy, really taking advantage of what I just talked about. Now, Neeb does get a scout here, and that's a little unfortunate, because Reality was so close to denying the scout. Had he raised the supply depot and had that siege just a second sooner, he'd think it was a 1-base build that included a factory and a starport, not a 1-base build. Oh, wait a second. Spoke too soon. He might not realize this is a double Reaper. That complicates issues. He didn't see the second gas timing, or did he? He might have. Yeah, okay, so if he saw that, then I think he might know that's double Reaper instead of a factory. It is worth noting, though, again, that was the reason I was surprised, that a double Reaper build versus Protoss is not nearly as common as versus Zerg or Terran, or as a 1 barracks proxy versus Protoss. Those are all things you usually see, not this. There are a couple of, like, almost troll builds that we see very good players use, not only the trolly players use, that include going mass Reapers, even like 5 racks Reaper. And it's kind of funny, it's kind of funky, it hasn't worked so far that we've seen it, but sometimes it can be, you know, the entire intention can be just to surprise your opponent, which can sometimes work. Thank you to AET Scatman for the few-month resub, by the way. So a 3rd barracks is on the way, but I don't see any more, so I think this is not going to be that 5 racks Reaper shenanigan thing I was talking about. Reapers do end up getting into the main base. The Moisture Core was scouting for this, and as such is not quite in position for the pylon. We also do not have the pylons in super great position. Where's the second one? Oh, out here in case the Reapers got up there. That's unfortunate. Trying to predict and instead making yourself a live turret into a Neeb pylon, I suppose. Still, this is not too much damage done. You know, a proxy. Oh, gets that Reaper. A proxy Reaper generally wants to get like 4 probes. 2 racks Reaper not proxied. I'm gonna guess. We got 3 Reapers. I got 5 Reapers. With 5 Reapers, I think you're gonna want like 8 to 10 probes killed. Would be ideal. Just throwing out numbers though. I think the most important part is that you keep them back though. Because Reality did, you know, we went for command center, right? This is not super all in. As long as you can keep Neeb's army from attacking into his base when he's not prepared, which is gonna take forever anyway, he might not mind, you know, 6 workers killed instead of 8 or 10. It's only been 5. Maybe he's gonna sack the Reapers. Cause at this point, he's seen the army, he's seen the production. He knows that if the Reapers all die, it's not like versus Zerg where there's 6 roaches and 20 speedlings that could counterattack. If you don't have a bunker, it's 2 adepts, and you know, not even the militia corps can really go across the map at this point. So playing it pretty safe, getting a bunker. Regardless of what is scouted, there's always a possibility. And it's going to be useful later on anyway, depending on what Neeb does, to get a full wall off even. It is going to be Blink for Neeb. Neeb has some pretty nasty Warp Prism Adept harassment in his back pocket, and he certainly can go for those all-in builds as well, but typically he seems to be more of a Blink kind of guy. Likes, I guess, utilizing that to its fullest ability, really showcasing how it can make the difference between a good player and a great player is how you use that blink. It also, I think, sets you up better into that mid game, of course, as you can actually snipe medevacs and roam around the map and get more scouting than just with Resonant Glaives. But the Adepts are on the way. Resonant Glaives are not. Having defended against a 2 Rax, he will go ahead and get a 3rd Nexus down. I think he really wants to get a Scout with this, as well as, you know, obviously a couple SCVs, but I think ideally a Scout. So he knows, like, is it a 5 Rax or is it a 3rd CC? Because that will tell him how much pressure his 3rd Nexus will be under. If it's a 5 Rax, you probably want to put pylons down eventually. If it's a 3rd command center, I think you can probably hold off and just get an army. Going for an Immortal right now. Just getting, I mean, really just macroing up here. Now, Reality does have stim, and he's gonna have combat shields and +1. Like, he's a fully functional army, even if it is off of only 2 barracks and 3 barracks, 2 bases, 3 barracks right now. Blah. And that's still a little bit scary, but the Stalker count's been growing steadily enough, and should he catch it in position, which he almost does, that'll go quite nicely for Neeb. It also would have been just before combat shields had finished. So 3rd base should be safe. Militia Corps is protecting the main base. Reality does throw down a 3rd CC on location, which Neeb just barely doesn't scout, but still has a scout somewhat in the main base to see X2 barracks or not. This attack is not going to do too... Oh, no, it's a Stalker that's being warped in. But I think it's more of a distraction tactic, so be careful not to lose it. For this drop, which Neeb should be anticipating. Neeb's, you know, a very good Protoss, and very good Protosses anticipates multi-pronged harassment. And Neeb's been very good about defending against it. Might mess up in the main a little bit. Where did that Mothership Core go? Oh no, she's still around, just not quite entirely in position. This really shouldn't get a lot done. Maybe a couple of probes, because Neeb isn't pulling as quickly as I thought he would. But I thought the pylons would be able to cover it, but they're mostly Artosis pylons, so one depowers the forge, the other one depowers a couple of key structures. Most of the army comes back to defend against this. The Militia Corps is actually going to go down here, and the 3rd base isn't quite covered by the Adepts and the Immortals, and suddenly what should have been maybe 5 probe losses turns into 26. What the heck? Oh my god, 29? I was like, was there a Widow Mine in some of these? How did that rise so damn quick? There wasn't anything in the 3rd base. It really was just catching all the probes with enough Marines. And this is the type of damage that Neeb just starts to really crumble under. He starts getting down on himself or you know, whatever, and then it doesn't just affect this game, it affects the next 2 games. If this is going to be like the series versus Beyond, then Neeb's going to get 3-0'd, all because he messed up on the defense. I really can't believe almost 30 probes went down, though. Like, I saw the probes being pulled over here, and these, I guess, were pulled back into the Marines, but damn. That's, that was a lot of damage. Almost unrecoverable damage, too. Like, to replace all of those probes is going to take so long. That's going to be... I mean, consider that he's replacing the probes. That's 150 minerals per round from their Nexus. That's gateways per round. He's going to be on 3 gateways for such a long, long time. He doesn't really want to be. In fact, this is messing him up on more than just, like, actual bank or income. He's accrued a bank when he probably should not have one. I'm guessing because his gases weren't resaturated, and yeah, that's actually mostly it. Trying to return some damage here. 6-7 SCVs. Oh, that was some natural. 10 SCVs, 11. This is decent, and the War Prism lives. I don't think it's going to actually live for long, though, so might as well just deposit the Adepts in the main base and try and get out that way. But this was hurt, so I will lose the War Prism. Starting the comeback, though. Starting the comeback. Finally has the guys back in gases, too, so he can put down the structures he wants, but is also getting gateways. That's kind of the only thing he can afford is so many minerals. Adepts end up getting 16, maybe even 17? Oh, almost 17. Where'd that go? Oh, it escaped? No, it escaped. Oh, I did not expect it to do that. But 16 probes for almost, or 16 SCVs for almost 30? Oh, 37 probes in total. Damn. That's a start. Without Splash, it's really hard to say that Neeb can take a good engagement. He'll need a pretty good concave, he'll need Guardian Shield, not getting sniped, and he'll need Reality to maybe get too overconfident. At this point, Neeb wants to be on a 4th base, covering that with a even-sized army, maybe even a bit bigger. And now he is down almost 50 army supply without a 4th base. So, and with no War Prism to get Reality to move back. Reality has a death push here for sure. Upgrades a little bit in favor of Reality as well. Armor is 20 seconds out. Colossus way out. And Neeb should just be dying. He has a couple of force fields which are stopping Reality from taking the fights, but he takes it anyway. And this is just going so poorly. He's trying to split the army, but the Liberator's getting some really nice tags on these units, and there's nothing else going on here. War Prism not even going to try and go into that 3rd base. He is too focused on defending his third of his own. Disruptors are on the way, and that's when you start talking about getting some really nasty hits to bring him back into this game, but I think it's too late. One Disruptor can be easily sniped. There's a lot of Immortals, and the Liberators are trying to be taken down here, but this is the last stand, and it does not work out for Neeb. There's another army coming to the north that he's just not prepared for either. And that should be the tap-out time, especially if his Disruptor gets targeted. His probe's gonna get targeted instead. Main base is gonna be an attack, and there it is. There's the tap-out. GG. I don't know what to tell you guys. Neeb just has this thing about finals and sometimes semifinals and offline tournaments. Hopefully he can recover mentally for the next game. It will be his map choice, but as it is the finals, we're going to go to a quick break between games. See you soon. We're into game number 2. In the bottom right, down 1, he's the yellow Protoss, Neeb. In the top left, as the red Terran, he's Reality. Having met Neeb a couple of times and actually technically known him for like years now, because we were on the same team 2-3 years ago, I always feel a little bad highlighting his problem, especially because it's not a game problem. It's not like, oh, your Disruptor control is terrible. It's a mental problem. I do feel really bad always bringing up the fact that he does just crumble, but it's a fact at this point, and one that he does not like to be reminded of. He also doesn't like the pressure of being, called like greats, or that he's gonna win all the time and whatnot. That contributes, I think, to the mental state that he gets to in the finals, maybe the pressure that he puts on himself. So I really don't want to focus on that, but especially if in this game we see like indecisive moves, I'm gonna just say, like, it's happening all over again, basically. Because the first thing that happens is he doesn't defend perfectly, and that's not 30 probes, that's 15 probes sometimes only going down, not so bad. And then the second game, it's not that he does a poor handling again, although sometimes that is it. He'll just look very not confident, where a lot of, I think, Neeb's power in any matchup and what makes him so good in any matchup is his confidence. He'll have like the exact amount of units spread over different places, or even in a base trade. He'll split his army really, really well. He'll always decide what to do with his, the clean tactics of, I'll go with the Warp Prism and then I'll come with the attack on the left side. Like, it just is confidence, and then when you can actually see his mentality being shattered if he just starts being a little indecisive with his units. I'm really hoping it doesn't happen here. Like, the online aspect of it should be less pressure, if that is what gets to him. But Beyond did 3-0 the guy last time, and it just was not expected. So the Oracle opener does seem to be a good one for Neeb, gotta say. I talked about this last time we cast him versus Terran. He does seem to be one of the few Protosses, although it's not rare, it's just less common, to like Stargate openers, not just for the Oracle, but also for the Phoenix follow-up. He can actually do a variety of things. We talk about his Adept all-ins, which he certainly could have done. We talk about his Blink Stalker control, which he didn't really get to highlight last game. Oh, bye. And we talked about, or we're seeing right now, his Stargate openers. I mean, the other thing he can do really is like the Dark Shrine hidden stuff, which he did try on this map before and wasn't too great. Still gave him a win in the game in the end. He can do everything, basically. He's like a Swiss Army knife, almost. The Oracle reveals itself for the Reaper anyway, even though it kills it. Does pop its energy a little bit, but we'll have enough to do something. The Adept saw the Widowmine placement, and he might try and avoid that specific location. If Reality was, like, really clever, he might move it to, like, the Supply Depot or something. In fact, it looks like he has moved it. One Widowmine, one here. And, oh, he did move it slightly to the left. I couldn't see anything to the SCVs. But, you know, Neeb's well aware that Terran players are getting more than one Widowmine. In fact, they're getting more than two. Sometimes up to 4, actually. 2 to defend the mineral lines and 2 to drop. Reality does go for the 3, and he avoids them quite carefully. Again, not so much energy to really use anyway. Regardless if he knew where the Widowmines were or not, so he backs off. Keep that for Revelation. Phoenix checking for that medevac drop, because it is usually the Marine medevac drop into the Widowmine medevac drop. This one has already been denied, though, just by warp-ins. And Neeb is looking pretty strong. He goes to the 3rd base, as he should against a Widowmine drop, and it's already almost done. That does mean he has to protect 3 bases from harassment now, but usually he's very good at it. So hopefully he's kind of pushed that last game out of his mind by now. Oracle doesn't want to die here. I mean, Revelation is a very, very useful tool, and in fact, in one of the games versus Gumiho, Neeb was really showcasing some good use of stasis traps. You know, they were scouting, they did some pretty cool maneuvers on the actual army, taking away a good 20. Army supply can be very important. And I'd like to see that again on Frost, where if it does go to 4 bases, catching your opponent's units here and here, and then of course having the Zelnaga can basically cover all your bases. Oh, Jesus. Okay, not want to lose it. Reality is reaching a little bit here, going for double engineering bay and a 3rd CC at the wall. It's playing pretty greedy. I think that's an appropriate response, though, to be honest, to what Neeb did on this map especially. First of all, if you wouldn't mind drop, the Protoss should probably always get a much faster 3rd expand than you. You just can't kill an expansion unless you get really lucky. Second of all, the counter Blink Stalker, oh, nuts. The counter Blink Stalker attack that can sometimes happen, the reason we saw Gumiho go for tanks, for instance, less likely to happen on Frost and less likely to happen if it's a Stargate opener. At the time, that would actually scare you. So instead of just, you know, losing out in the Maka game a little bit, Reality's still behind 3rd timing, right? But he's now got these upgrade leads going for him. And he's looking pretty powerful on the backside, so I like the response. This game, being Frost cross-spawn, still going to go on for a very long time, and everything could be equalized, honestly. Little perks here and there for both players could be equalized. For instance, I think Neeb has always been going for... Leatherback is still there? Jesus. Oh, he blinks forward to get it. Oh, I didn't expect that. I think he's been going for a 2nd Forge, as if it was Terran, like, halfway when his armor is done. So we'll see if he does that again, and that'll eventually equalize these upgrades. Reality, already going for Liberator. That could just be for harassment, though. I don't know if he's going to go into, like, a 2nd start point anytime soon. Their base is only just getting up, after all. Love the Supply Depot block. Adepts take forever to kill Supply Depots. They're certainly long enough to respond to it. Either that or Widowmine up there is great. And Neeb's actually looking for an attack here. Now, he doesn't have Resident Glaives or +1 armor, so I would think he wants to wait for that. But he sees an opportunity. No, not so much with the Liberators, I wouldn't think. He's going to get denial on mining, however, and that's pretty cool. That's pretty good. Unfortunately, takes a bit of a shot here. The Warp Prism is the scariest part of this attack for sure. If Reality could somehow get rid of that, I think he'd feel a lot more confident in the hold. A blink forward on top of the Liberators actually gets a medevac as well, and all of the Liberators here. Reality feeling a bit desperate. Those force fields are pretty good. He's trying to pull the SCVs into this and losing quite a lot of them. More Adepts are being warped in. The force fields are still available. Guardian Shield, more importantly, still available. But once the Adepts are gone, you gotta wonder what's gonna happen to the Blink Stalkers. Upgrades have evened out to this point, and did Neeb just win this game? I think he just did. He started off with an even army supply. He found a good advantage, though, and really pushed it. 16 SCVs down. No army, really, for Reality. Neeb was not broken like last week at all. He looks very strong in this game. GG. Very well done. That's going to go to Reality's map choice now, but we are going to go to a break first. See you soon. Coming back in on King Sejong, it was this guy's choice of map. In the bottom right as the Red Terran, he's Reality. And top left as the Yellow Protoss, he is Neeb. Getting to watch the delay on that attack too, and for so much of that fight, that end of the game, Neeb didn't even have his upgrades that I was talking about, +1 in Resident Glaives. Had he waited for that, that would have been 2 more Liberators, 4 more Marauders, you know, etc., and he might have lost. That also might have just been in his favor, you know, +1 in Resident Glaives, helping out as well, but can't believe he forced the issue with that. No, I mean, I take that back. I can believe it, because he's done it before. He's done that little push right before his upgrades are done, and it's like, well, you know, he could maybe win with this, but more likely he's going to back off and take a 4th base, and then, well, he just wins. Glad to see that type of Need back in form and back in this finals as well. Maybe looking more towards the 3-1 here for Neeb now. Probe is picked off, but only after a very good scout. In fact, scouts there's no Reaper, which is always a little odd to see. So I missed it. No. I'm always paranoid I missed the Reaper, even though I know the timing wouldn't have made any sense. But yeah, the lack of Reaper can sometimes point to like a factory opener, but it is going to be a 2nd barracks and even a 3rd barracks. Oh nope, that's the factory. There you go. All right, so the 2-on-1 here. Reality did play this against the first Protoss we saw today, I want to say. It is kind of a middle-of-the-road build. You get Stim at a decent time, you get Medivacs at a decent time, you don't have a ton of bio, but it's more than a Widowmine drop, so a counterattack does not scare you as much. And, you know, you continue from there with the 3rd base or not. But Neeb will want to scout this with whatever comes out of that Stargate, which I'm going to guess is an Oracle again. It worked out so well last game. Not necessarily doing massive amounts of damage or even that much scouting, to be honest, because it ended up dying to a Widowmine in the middle of the map. But it still gets you all those things I mentioned, like a couple SCVs, scouting, revelation on an army. Here, it could get a couple more SCVs, since there are no Widowmines. I spoke too soon, there is a Widowmine. Since there's not as many Widowmines, there you go. He might be able to find a position somewhere where he feels safe enough to continue killing SCVs. It might even get to 5 or 6, depending on the positioning of Reality's army. And recall, since Reality didn't go for a Reaper, he might have everything set up a little bit faster. He won't have the knowledge of a Stargate opener. That's not an Oracle, it is just straight to those Phoenixes. So, what does Neeb know? Still not much. But almost guaranteed, Terrans are going to be going for some type of faster medevac, whether it is a Widowmine drop or this build. A lot of Terrans just don't go for 3 racks right off the bat anymore. Some do, and it can be very powerful change up in your strategies, but not nearly as many as those doing Widowmine drop, first and foremost, and then this build. So the point is, Phoenixes are almost never bad. In fact, I would say they are never bad. They are always a decent opener. If it is that 3 racks opener, at least you get a scout on it fast enough to try and prepare for it otherwise. Phoenixes don't help that much versus it, but certainly against a okay amount of Marines, but more importantly, faster medevacs, these Phoenixes are going to be very helpful. Especially if they get on top of the medevacs as they run forward. But he scouts, sees the timing and everything, knows exactly what to do here. Should be getting a 3rd base anyway. I think he'll feel good enough to do that. But he might wait for the medevacs that should be pushed back. 16 Marines can kill a 3rd base. That is the biggest difference between this build and a Widowmine drop. 16 Marines can also, like, slaughter a mineral line, mind you. So he has to be on top of where Reality is sending those 2 medevacs. So far, nowhere. The Phoenixes will scout that. He probably stopping at 5, if I had to guess. He does like Phoenixes, but he's not quite like Nyansik levels of Phoenix. And he certainly doesn't go for a, you know, heavy Phoenix and a Colossus, as some people were trying to do in Legacy of the Void. Like Nyansik again. I like the way that Neeb plays Phoenixes, though. If I was any good at Protoss, this would be the way that I'd play them. Whenever I go Phoenixes Protoss, I just forget to use them and I end up dying. Third base already about halfway done. It'll be a lot harder for Reality to kill this base now that it's got so much health. But on the other hand, as opposed to just having 2 medevacs, you will have 4. And many, many more Marines. Neeb, of course, sacrificing what could have been a very fast Weather Council for this Stargate opener is now getting Resonant Enclaves. Not even bothering with Blink, because really, do you have to if you get Phoenix? Not so much. I think eventually he'll get them, as Phoenixes will fall off as the armies get bigger. They really can't take on the Liberators with so many Marines on the ground. You kind of have to rely on those Blink Stalkers to maneuver a bit more. But first, Resonant Enclaves makes a lot of sense. Oracle is being made. Could get a couple SCVs, but I think more importantly is going to get Revelation tagged on the army, as the Robo is not done. Had this been a Widowmine drop, it probably wouldn't have done damage, but if they had burrowed, that might have been a problem, because there would be no detection. Oh, army is gonna get hit here, Revelation. That's nicely done. It's a very big army. Reality, I think, was not too scared. Was scared enough by the Phoenix opener to not do that immediate drop into the third of the natural. So he ended up bulking most of his army as if this was like a 3 racks opener anyway. A bit slower on the push out. In fact, slower as in not really pushing out at all. Just kind of taking a bit of map control. Interesting to see Neeb go for +1 on the Cymatics core. This isn't super uncommon, but as I said, he doesn't get that many more Phoenixes than this. He ended up going for 7 though, not 5. But it's not like a second Stargate. So it's always interesting to see them add that on. I guess 100 is worth it. Widow Mines could be a problem, as again, that observer count is non-existent. Did he ever get one? Never got one. Is he using the Robo at all? Oh, for the War Prism. Duh. Phoenix is picking up those Widow Mines is a good hit too, by the way. Sucks that Reality had them out and about. The command center is done, but of course Neeb's had his third base done for quite some time. And why doesn't have the gases? He doesn't necessarily need them. We'll get them eventually, but he's looking pretty good with a mass adept Phoenix army. Just so many adepts is super, super scary. And with the Phoenix count being at 7 and he's getting more, I guess he won't be going for Blink at all. Which is interesting. It is just a mass Phoenix adept army. We've seen him do this before. In fact, I remember the last time we saw him do it, I was on Apotheosis, and it looked like he was going to win so hard, but then he got over-aggressive. I think Reality is the one at risk here, being over-aggressive in the middle of the map like this, because being in the middle of the map like this means eventually he has to unsiege his Liberators, and that's when the Phoenixes come in and kill them, that's when the Adepts come in. Maybe they'll do it even without the unsiege here. The Phoenixes do come in and get one Liberator pretty much off the bat, but the other ones aren't dying super quickly because +1 isn't done on those Phoenixes, but the rest of the army is still cleaned up, and Reality has to get the heck out of there. Tries to pick them up where he can, but the Medivacs are also going to be hunted down here. A Warp Prism gets to the natural, and is going to get that Warp in just barely before going down. There's a bit of a drop over here with Widow Mines. The can's going to help a little bit, but this is going to be third base economic damage versus what is potentially just going to be game over damage. Oh, the Phoenixes look so tempting for the Medivac. They're going to get it. They're going to get it. And the pickup on the Widow Mines was fantastic. I think Neeb has got this game in the bag. Reality, had he been in a more defensive position with more Widow Mines, barely holds, but might still hold. Being on the map like that, having his Widow Mines picked off like they were, all added up to a win here for Neeb. His drop not doing anything except denying a little bit of mining. Neeb's getting 4th base anyway. And the game is definitely Neeb's. Really got to see him not tumble after that first game and go back to actually, like, let's just forget about that first game, basically, is I feel what Neeb is saying and, you know, pretend it was me 3-0ing this guy. As it should have been. GG! Well done on King Sejong. Once again, going to be Reality's map choice. It is now a point in favor for Neeb, 2-1, and a best of 5 means that this could be the last game of the cast. So we're going to go to a quick break. See you soon. Welcome back into what could be the last match of the day. In the bottom right on New Gettysburg, it is the Red Terran Reality. In the bottom left as the Yellow Protoss, he is Neeb. I just realized that Neeb, like, always picks yellow. It is a nice color on Protoss, specifically. Journey always picked orange for his Terran, and Scarlet always picks pink for Zerg. Who else is really attached to their colors? I want to say Harstem is, but I can't remember what color he's attached to. I myself would prefer white, but that is not included in the standard packaging for StarCraft 2, so whatever. White on Terran looks so good, though. Anyway, that's not super important. Neeb looking like his confident PvT self. Feel very confident in his win here on New Gettysburg. Reality is a top contender, though. I've been focusing so much on what Neeb is thinking and how he plays and how his emotional, mental state is and blah, 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 that we really neglected reality here. I mean, just so habit, right? And of course, a lot of everyone's really paid attention to Neeb, so there's that. Like, I'm not alone in this, right? But reality is this guy that he's come back finally in the online leagues. We loved watching him for a very long time. He's the only guy that could beat Beyond until Neeb, basically, came around, I suppose. As Beyond was winning quite a few Olimoleagues and all the other cups too. And he's come back to us, you know? But it's against this guy that has a lot more of a name to him. Reality, love you, we could type you up all the time versus the likes of Gumiho and whatnot. But against Neeb, you're actually going to be overwhelmed here with popularity. Thank you, Rifkin, for the 15-month resub. And he's also apparently going to be overwhelmed by skill if he loses this game here. But reality is not no chump, and he certainly is a serious tournament contender. And what I mean by that is not just that his skill is up there and great, it's that his builds are usually, they're varied, first of all. Of course, he has those, you know, funny Cyclone builds and whatnot, which he's not using here. But they're varied enough that Neeb should not feel super comfortable all the time. And reality should be reading into one thing or the other, or another, for Neeb's style of play. The Adepts see that there's only so many Marines, and should the micro go in favor of Neeb, they could have maybe gotten even 2 or 3, which would have been nice. I don't think he really wants to commit here, he just wants to get a scout. Yeah, unfortunately, reality's denying him on that. But reality brought up different builds, going for a fast third command center into, of course, the barracks beyond that. Neeb, unfortunately, was not able to scout that because he did not go for Stargate this time. But what he's going for, talked about a variety of builds for reality, Neeb also has a variety of styles, as I mentioned in the last game, in the beginning. He's going to go for the Resonant Glaive thing. And by the Resonant Glaive thing, I mean the not hyper-aggression, this is only 3 gateways, but still with a War Prism, Neeb can end games with this. Any Protoss can end games with this. And oh, never mind, I thought it wasn't going to be hyper-aggression. It is going to be quite aggressive. Proxy gateway here, going to provide those fast warp-ins in case the War Prism dies. And even if the War Prism doesn't die, which I assume he's going to get now, it'll provide a different point of attack. You warp in the main base, but then suddenly there's Adepts here as well, because your wall-off isn't done. It's New Gettysburg after all. Even if you get a wall-off, which some people don't bother getting, it's gonna take a long time to complete. Oh, reality, though, is getting it really quick-like. He didn't really scout very much to tell him to, but he might know, first of all, how Neeb sometimes plays, and just in general, how Protoss can abuse things that aren't walled off, right? So it's kind of like ultra defensive play. Not ultra defensive, but it is defensive play. It's actually the right one, absolutely, in this game. So Neeb, I think he's actually reacting to the wall off, believe it or not, with the Observer Scouts. The War Prism always has potential. Always. So he's not going to give up on that or anything, right? And he's going to try and get some warpings and whatnot. But I don't know if he's really going to use this at all. If he does, it's going to be poking at a bunker, actually. If this was a supply depot wall, maybe he tries to do some damage, but I like the third base better. The double forge as well. You see that reality's playing pretty damn defensive. What does that mean exactly? He gets a scout on the third command center too, so he knows he's going to have a long time before he has to really worry about, like, you know, multi-pronged attacks or even a really big main one on his third. Almost this is the War Prism. I don't know what it is about today, but Neeb's still winning despite some poor War Prism control in most of the games. This time doesn't lose it. Has that proxy pylon, and while it wasn't used for the double attack, it is still going to be used for, you know, whatever else later on until it's cleaned up. So Neeb has a good read on the situation. He will want to get an additional scout on the fast second starport, though, as Reality is playing pretty damn different. Not just for a fast third command center, because you can get a fast third command center and then like a ton of barracks and get like, you know, this really insane amount of production. Oh, don't go down. You can get an insane amount of production and really like, you know, push hard with it. Or you can just continue playing very macro, very defensive. No, you come to me and get to Liberators, which I've mentioned Neeb's had problems with before. Sometimes, you know, he takes advantage of whatever build his opponent does in the early to mid game, like the faster third Nexus or the double forge or the faster tech or anything like that. But then sometimes would fall off when it came to late game. Like he'd poke and prod and realize how late the game's getting to, and then you just still would not get to the next step, would rely too much on a base ground army. I think he's fixed that. I think he's realized the strength that is Colossus a bit sooner than later, and even Tempests. It's also bit him in the butt, because, you know, on that one game on Frozen Temple versus Gumiho, he was trying to reach for Tempests when there was actually a base trade happening, but anyway. He needs to get a scout on what is really going on here. Honestly, getting a scout in the main base would be ideal. Seeing the army is a good backup. The second backup for scouting would just be like, hey, he's not ever attacking me, so I'm just going to assume he's going to go for Liberators. But looks like he's going to get in the main base and see all this, so... I mean, this is insane. Liberator range finishing up with combat shields, that's cray-cray. I like the spread of units. Adept here, Observer here, Observer here, and a probe was up here before it died. Reality should not ever really be pushing without Liberators, so whenever I see an army out in the middle of the map like this, I'm just gonna call it a fake, you know? Neeb isn't exactly on this powerhouse army that Reality would die without his Liberators. But it's because I think he recognizes he has time, you know? And he's gonna get much better upgrades, and he's gonna get to Colossus. Fourth base on the way for Neeb. Might be on the way soon for Reality, too. Oh, no, next to barracks. I think he'll still be able to afford it, though, if he just waits one round of production. Because it's getting to that point where, like, okay, it's gonna go for a long time, isn't it? Reality has fallen behind those upgrades, and that's unfortunate. His armory was late, I believe. Just in general, he was prioritizing more Liberators over more upgrades. And to his credit, he has quite a few. I guess he swapped starports, so now it's 4 Liberators at a time. This is the type of thing, though, that, like, okay, Neeb got a scout in the main base, he saw a double starport, that's great, but does he really realize how much Reality's gonna be pushing in with this? Like, it's not gonna be 6 Liberators, it's gonna be 8 and then 12 and then 16. That's a number that I think I can say you need Tempest for, unless you catch them drastically out of position. Colossus is only gonna do so much to help out with the ground army, to then help out the Blink Stalkers with the Liberators, you know? Because Colossus aren't the answer to Liberators, they're the answer to the mass amount of ground that covers Liberators. They usually covers the Liberators against Blink Stalker, right? So, it's a whole dynamic that kind of just falls off if there's too many freaking Liberators, especially with range, especially if they have upgrades, which Reality, again, was pretty late to. Bit of harassment going on here, always a good thing to try and do. Sometimes you can really catch them off guard. Is this a factory? It is a factory, okay. Widow Mines are awfully useful, again, at covering those Liberators, but I think he really just wanted to go for, like, mass amounts of units. At this point, they're kind of base units, too, because they are so far behind on the upgrades. 2-2 to 1-1 for another minute here. But Reality still has to be careful. Again, you can't just throw the Liberators in willy-nilly, despite there being, how many? 10? Damn, I'm about to be 12. He's gonna chase a little bit. Might have to sacrifice his base, though. Like, the Liberators are gonna get a siege up on the ramp now. What are you gonna do here? You're gonna go behind them, maybe? Actually, going behind the army wouldn't have been a bad idea. Instead, he kind of splits. Okay, well, look at the Blink Stalkers can blink forward here. Blink forward here. Kind of sucks to lose your base like that so easily, however. And it's not like Neeb was easily onto a 5th either. I think this is a very good style for Reality to use against Neeb. But, oh my god, Neeb pushes into that. The upgrades are even at this point, and the Liberators are about to have ship weapons. Neeb's in a shitty situation, basically. I think he might just die here. Blue Raiders are going ham on a lot of these units. There's still 2 of them alive, and they've killed so much of the buffer of Neeb's army, and that's just it. Oh god, 70 supply difference. Enough medevacs too, which is surprising. I guess they haven't been picked off. That he can heal that army back up, and GG. Reality finding, I think, one of the weakest points in Neeb's play, and abusing it. It is now back to Neeb's map choice, but not really, because there's only 5 maps in the map pool. What are we left with? What are we left with? Apotheosis? Yeah, I think Apotheosis is the only map left over, so we'll see how this goes in the ace match. See you guys in the game. We are in the ace match on Apotheosis. Kind of forced upon this guy, but unfortunately that's the way it goes. We only have 5 maps in the map pool. In the bottom right's just losing that last game, but still 2-2. Could win the overall series. It's the yellow Protoss, Neeb. In the top left, as the red Terran, he is Reality. So yeah, I mean, not much happened in that game battle-wise. Neeb was caught not quite between a rock and a hard place, but basically a gigantic boulder was slamming him into his own home. So, you know, that's that. In his own home being his third base. It happened to the best of the Protosses. It does seem to be one of Neeb's most defined weakness. Like, you can talk about his mentality and, like, his, you know, that he kind of crumbles in the semifinals and finals and whatnot all day long, but even that is not super consistent and not something that we can really, like, pinpoint and be like, fix it, because that's a hard job to do. But when it comes to late game in the actual game, that's something that I'm sure that Neeb's aware of. He's had trouble with before, and something that he's probably, you know, steadily improving on. That last game was just an extreme example of what can happen when the Liberator count gets out of control and you don't quite accommodate for it. So I'd say that's his biggest physical gameplay weakness. Did mention too, and I don't think this really would have influenced a lot of things, but his Warp Prism micro lately has not been the greatest. I mean, kind of scratch that. His Warp Prism micro, when it's very important, is super fantastic. Like that game versus Ryung with the Cyclones was amazing. But his Warp Prism harassment, in that you keep the Warp Prism alive, is not the usual Neeb standard. I'd say the most annoying thing about Neeb, well, if you're playing against him, there's a lot of annoying things. But the most annoying thing in general about playing anyone is if they keep their harassment units alive. You know, it's the Liberator that comes back for a second round. It's the Medevac with 4 Marines that come back for the second round. It's the Warp Prism that comes back not with a 3 gateway warp in like at 5 minutes, but with a 15 gate warp in at 15 minutes. That you're like, damn, man, if only I'd killed that Warp Prism. You take that out of the equation, and I don't think I can really express the relief you feel as a Terran player. I think even Zerg players will have a similar feeling here. And maybe even Protosses, actually, to be honest. PvP, Warp Prisms can also be kind of, you know, bullshit. But not as much. So, but just imagine that, and imagine it like threefold when it comes to the high pressure stakes of a professional game in the finals. Anyway, that's it might be too much of a point to focus on, because again, like, I don't think the Warp Prism was the key factor. It might have let up too much aggression, as I'm talking about here, that Reality felt too safe. And maybe for Neeb, he felt like it wasn't worth it, but really maybe in hindsight it was, who knows. But I think it was, of course, other things, like not reacting quite as quickly as he could have to the situation. The third base, I thought that was excellent timing. It was super damn quick, and I think that was important to match Reality's super damn quick third CC. But his fourth Nexus probably could have come down and saturated a bit earlier. Well, not quite saturated, but, you know, mining a little bit earlier, and that might have given him more room for either a fifth base to already be on the way, you know, so he just gives up that fourth base and moves elsewhere, or for a Stargate to have started. I don't know, like, Neeb was pretty, like, low on minerals and gas. It wasn't like he had a huge bank and he just wasn't using it, and, like, you know, Death to Neeb and whatnot. But it was something that, like, priority might have gone on Tempests over Colossus even. Colossus are like the first step in the right direction at dealing with bio in general, but also Liberators. And then once they get to a certain amount, you just really need Tempests. That might have been his biggest problem. I'm not sure, though. I'm not sure. We do have a big push coming through here, though. So I brought up this build last game, and the game before that, too. But the 3 racks, you know, it's not super common, but you can throw it in to kind of throw a wrench into the whole, you know, I know what you're doing, basically, that Neeb would love to have. Now, Neeb still got a scout with the Observer, even after it was killed. And he saw 3 barracks, and he knows the timing, he knows how many units are going to be out here with Stim, and it's a scary amount, even if you know it's on the way. So, already picking away at Marines is pretty important. Before the medevacs are here, that's really nice. You know, having like a couple of Blink Stalkers like these medevacs would have been really great, but not really possible. And he will have to deal with a large number of bio with the upgrades already done. That's the... I feel like that's the true difference, is that the fact that they have Stim and combat shields and maybe even Roger slow, as opposed to just being base units with a medevac. You're itched. Neeb is prepared. He did get the 3rd base up and running, so he already has that going for him. And he has an observer seeing how the army is moving as well. Now, Reality didn't go for 5 racks immediately after, so it's not like a true all-in, like, just go for the win, try and win with mass bio. You know, for 3rd CC, and then 2 barracks. So, it's still economical for him. Just as you know, as we saw these past 7 minutes, there's been no dropping, there's been no harassment, it's just been shit at macro. Reality, I think, liked what happened last game. He liked winning, and he's going to try and do it again with a similar tactic, going pretty fast into the starport and fusion core. Something that Neeb will want to scout. And we'll see how he reacts differently this time against it. Apotheosis can be even trickier, whereas New Gettysburg, it's almost like a guaranteed 3-base map or 4-base map, and that kind of favors the Liberator style more. There's still some open areas where Blink Stalkers can get like a good snipe on a few of them, or a good concave of the Protoss army in general. Things that Neeb did not end up getting, mind you, but could have happened. Apotheosis is going to be a lot trickier to do that. The multiple pathways might open up like surprise attacks for either side, but when it comes down to fight versus fight, there's a lot more chokes and bridges on this map than any other, so that could potentially be very unfavorable for Neeb's engagements. The War Prism staying alive, and gonna continue poking around and whatnot. Neeb actually feeling confident enough with his army to move out to the middle of the map, as I think he saw what the reinforcements look like. I think he saw the Liberator chasing the War Prism after all, and the War Prism might have even seen the second starport. Nope, JK didn't. Not even close. I don't know what I was thinking. I don't want to, though. He's got upgrades on the way, and he will have an upgrade lead. Reality wasn't nearly as greedy as he was last game. Or wait. He went for a 3rd to C last game. Did he go for Jump on Engineering Bay? Oh, no, he did. That's right. He was so behind on upgrades last game. It just didn't matter because Liberators are good. Not as greedy as that 3rd game, then. But a bit of a trade here. I don't want to call it a base trade quite yet, but it might just be this Nexus for one of these command centers. But now Neeb feels like he definitely has to dedicate to this. He's catching Liberators at a very small count, though, and instantly KOs all 4 of them. That helps so much. The Guardian Shields not being targeted either means that Neeb might have just done it. He's not going to get this 3rd base to lift off, and he's going to lose this 3rd base of his own, but he has a 4th on the way, and he's breaking down Reality's walls. There's no more Liberators to fall back to. One pops out. Blink Stalkers will find it very difficult to get over there, but they can just also avoid it, which is pretty nice. And Neeb might have just taken this game. Pretty even workers here, but the drop is going to be cleaned up on the other side, whereas this army is not getting cleaned up at all. He's got to hope to God Liberators are as good as they sound. Factory gonna go down here. Starport maybe to follow. Liberators to follow. Can't quite reach this one. The awkward terrain is very awkward. Oh my god, he can fit Stalkers back there. Well, that works. And Neeb, I think he's crushed him. Reality reaching for those Liberators, not up to a decent enough count, not expecting an attack on the front like that happened. Looks like Reality was able to kill the 4th base. Kudos, but he just cannot take on the army reinforcements, and his production is now compromised. GG! Neeb takes the finals of an Olimoleague, which is pretty damn impressive for a foreigner. He is the only one to do it before anyway, but now he really, whoopsie daisy, he really solidifies that he is a contender in the Olimoleague by getting it now here, not in the beta. And that's gonna be it. Congratulations to Neeb once more for winning some decent prize money, some even cash, you know? 150, just about. Of course, he's in Korea, so he doesn't mind that it's in won, I suppose. And that's that. Next week is going to be the Olimoleague monthly finals, I do believe, so Neeb should be joining us there too. Reality should be as well. Usually second place gets you to the finish line, even if it sometimes means you're in a tie situation. Of course, I think the actual roster of final invitees will be announced on the Olimoleague Twitter, so follow that. If they both are, you'll see them both live at the venue, and that's what the live feed was all about earlier today. I'll do our shoutouts after this break, so thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned. Thank you for watching those ads. Once again, congratulations to Neeb for winning. He actually made a tweet just now saying that he managed to win only because he managed to dodge beyond. Maybe that's true, maybe not, I don't know. But he looks strong. He actually came back mentally at the very least after that first game, and I'm glad to see that in the second game too. Really able to fix things up. And he certainly deserves that win. Big thanks to the Olimoleague for staying true and running for as long as a year and a half now. You can go ahead and support the Olimoleague if you would like by going to patreon.com/Olimoleague, not only for supporting esports and the Olimoleague and Korean StarCraft and everything like that, but also looking for some pretty good rewards, like getting your replays cast by like Little Biscuit or me, or of course getting the replays of the Olimoleague. First and foremost, for a lot of people, is pretty sick. And, of course, you can follow on Twitter as well. You can follow me on Twitter at ZG Gaming and Rifkin on Riff_Kings. Follow us down below on the channel. Thanks to our channel sponsors, Chairs for Gaming, G2A.com, Yord, and Corsair Gaming. You can check out all those links down below if you're interested in anything. Nice watches, video games, comfy chairs, and good peripherals. All that. Lastly, check out the Amazon links. If you're going to Amazon to buy anything, just click through that link, and it takes nothing from you and just gives a little bit to me if you're interested in that. And finally, go to our youtube.com/BaseTradeTV. We'll redirect you to the appropriate place to watch all of our VODs, including stuff that is made only for YouTube. Tomorrow we'll be back with a best of 31 between Bly and Clem. I was going to say Cham, but I think it's Clem. It's a Terran player. And that's going to be interesting because there are going to be different maps being brought back, which is always the best part about extended best ofs. I think that just about covers it. Rifkin will be going to PAX this weekend, so he'll be casting tomorrow, but not in the literal weekend. Future will be joining me for 1 or 2 casts, I believe, and otherwise it will be solo casting. So, see you guys tomorrow, early. That's a 10 a.m. EDT start time. And thanks for watching. Bye.